Warriors Unite! Back with another episode of Vigor Wars 2 and the 1% Club. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are on your purpose. Hope you guys are conquesting yourselves and conquesting other things around you as you conquest yourselves under God's purposes. Always great to be back with you guys doing another one here. We're going to focus on a comment from Don Trump. Can you have bad luck when you release? We'll talk about that one. Let's do some shout outs first. Also, by the way, I want to show you, this is the book that I'm talking about that we always talk about, Ancient Secrets of the Fountain of Youth by Peter Kelder. So I recommend getting a copy of that. I've had several copies of this for years, and it's great. Back to 1998. I think it's a great book and something to think about as you continue your quest to try to become the best person you can become. I see lots of videos on this stuff now, and goes back to Stoic nature, goes back to Brahmacharya, Semen Retention, all the things that we've kind of talked about. So let's do some shout outs real fast here before we go into our topic. All right, what do we got? All right, JLR 194, thank you, my friend. Wertpollwert, thank you, my friend. Expose evil and narcissism, 4 years. Congratulations, keep it up. Yes, I think what happens is exactly right. As you're on retention more in a journey, you're exposing the evil around you more, those evil behaviors. I don't think people necessarily evil. There probably are some really evil people out there, but a lot of them have been taken over by Satan and the evil one. So a lot of those are behavioral types of things. I would try to forgive the person, but don't forgive the act, of course, and protect yourselves as usual. Amarchosenone, thank you. Sunlight and SR, we'll do one on those a little bit, talking about how important it is to get sunlight, but also that it can, too much of it, obviously, you know, causes wrinkles, all kinds of stuff like that they've seen over the years. You've seen people get drained out by that kind of stuff over the years, having too much suntan and getting in the sun too much. Giodude, thank you, my friend. Gottown, transmutation video. I think I just did one recently. If you need another one, please let me know. JTE Creates, thank you, old friend. Bobbygee, day one at this point. I know you got a lot more days under your belt. Keep it up, my friend. Mr. IDAF, the lion. I love it. I love the lion. It's always something we look at. Is the lion does not need to be showing their masculinity all the time, but only at times when they have to. Then all of a sudden they attack and no one can stop them. So lion is great. Lykkos, thank you, my friend. Peaceful Wave, thank you. My Fred Webb 1, thank you. Anansizabalaza, thank you. Jonathan Sanchez, thank you. Jzyy YY77, thank you. And Stephen M Reinhardt, thank you. All right, my friends, so at the 3-minute mark, here's our topic from Don Trump here. Can you have bad luck when you release? The answer to that question is, of course, you can always have, if you call it bad luck. First of all, we have to define what bad luck is. I think anything that happens to you can be used for a reason. So God has purpose in mind for all of us. I believe there's a mission, there's a purpose for us all to go through. So as you're doing more and more retention, as you're doing this more and more, especially if you're like on monk mode, you're going to go ahead then and feel more of that purpose. Understand where you're going. And so every lesson I think that happens to you, good or bad, and I've been through 64 years of these, and thank you, some of you guys are making some nice comments about how much younger I look. I think that's wonderful, thank you so much. But once again, I attribute that to God and all the things that we've been doing. But the idea is I've been through a lot of experiences, and you know, did I rail against those experiences at the time? Of course. Did I get upset? Did I get frustrated? I did. I don't as much anymore. I'm getting better with all of that. I think the key is that I recognize now that all experiences we have are for a purpose. A lot of these things can be looked at as negative or positive. And so I don't look at any luck as being bad luck. I think things may not go the way you want them to go. And in your mind, that would be bad luck. But the thing is, it's always there to teach you something. So the key to me is to always figure out what is this teaching me that I can use to become better the next time. Remember, the whole thing is God wants you to become the best person you can become before you leave this wonderful earth that we're on here and transition into something else. Do the best that you can, and God will be there for you. And this is what I truly believe. Jesus Christ will be there for you. And I think you have to just kind of go to your end of the bargain, which means you're not going to sin. You're going to try to be the best person you can be, the best person you can be to your Creator, to your God. And that God will reward that to you as time goes on, because you will then know what His purpose is. And as you go through His purpose, now you're going to see, and you're going to get more grateful, and you're going to be able to be more happier and more peaceful. I'm at a lot of peace in my life right now. Are there things that irritate me? Of course. Are there things that kind of get me upset? Possibly. I'm handling those things a lot better, even though I did have an episode today where I think I got a little too upset more than I should have. But you check yourself with that. You say to yourself, okay, this is things that happen to you. You can do things to control those and think of solutions. To me, the best saying of all, and I work with Norm Vincent Peale, a person who was a great pastor many years ago in New York City. And, he did a lot of books, and he's actually, if you ever seen the book, The Power of Positive Thinking, he wrote that, and he was very famous in the 80s and 90s and things like that, and he was more famous probably in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, but I had worked with him, and one of his great sayings is that, God trusts us, or He would not give us any problems, right? He says something like, you have any problems, God? Don't you trust me? And that was the saying he would say all the time. And I think it's a good, interesting point, because we are what they call problem solvers. And so the thing is that as you get into your journey, you're going to meet a lot of challenges that are different than you had previously. When you were kind of in a different enlightenment. You were more of the world. You're becoming more spiritual the more you retain. And I see that now more and more since I'm at 1,800 days or 1,850 or whatever it might be. I see that more and more now as I get approaching closer and closer to the goal I'm trying to achieve, which is 12 years. So I'm not even halfway there yet, but I could see where you're becoming more spiritual. And because of that, you're going to get a lot more challenges. So things are not always going to go well. We talked about that in the last video, where you're going to get people who are basically not necessarily going to like you because you're on retention. And that happens a lot, because people are not going to always be attracted to your energy. Some people repel it for their own reason. They might be jealous. They may not be able to handle it. They may be intimidated by you, and they may not know what to do with your energy level and who you are. So the thing is as we talk about this, the idea is that you want to go ahead and be strong, and you want to go ahead and be on your journey, but also realize that things are not always going to go your way. There's going to be things that happen to you that are going to be things that are not going to be something you want. And because of that, as you see that more, it's going to be something that you got to think about and say, how do I handle the situation? So I think when Don Trump is saying basically, what can you have bad luck? I wouldn't call it bad luck. Will things go perfectly for you all the time? No, they won't. But you'll be able to handle those things better, because you're going to be less anxious, less worried. I was a nervous wreck for many, many years, because I was releasing back and forth. I had no plan. I had no idea what I was really doing when it came to, my inner self, inner religion, all those type of things. I was just out there lost, trying to figure out what is the meaning of life and those type of things. And so as time has gone on more, I figured a little bit more out about the spiritual aspect of things, and that everything we see is not really real. What we're dealing with is what we don't see more than what we see. What we see is kind of an illusion. What we don't see behind things. This is why when you are on retention, you could look at people and you can see their true personality. You can see that. You can look in their eyes. I could look at a girl's eyes and I can kind of see who they really are. And I think that kind of scares them, especially, and same thing with males. Some males will react to you positively. Some will react negatively because you can see them. Because you're not just looking at them as an object or a person. You're looking in their soul because you're now confident enough to be able to see this as you're talking with them. So this is why when we talk about the whole idea of, good luck, bad luck, anything like that, this all comes down to the same thing about this is another step in your progression. We all are on a different path. We all are different reasons we're here. And so God is using us in different ways. And so the key thing to me is you have to trust in the Lord. Trust that whatever's happening is for a reason. And that you're being given these things for a reason. And so if you end up, having a relationship, there's a reason for that. If you end up getting, a job, there's a reason for that. If you end up getting a breakup, there's a reason for that. And there's a reason for getting, losing your job as well. The key is not to get upset. Try to stay stoic. Try to stay calm. Try to understand that we are all in different situations and that the main thing is God is still with us. And because God is with us, no one can be against us. That's a great saying from the Bible. If all is with us, no one can be against us. Who can be against us? That's always something to think about, because you're going to have things that are happening to you that are not going to be great. You're going to have people who don't like you sometimes. That's going to happen to you. But the key in the whole situation is to realize that the main purpose is here is for God. You're going to serve your Creator's purpose. As a result of that, as you look at things, you're going to go and say, okay, this didn't turn out the way I wanted. Let's examine this more. What can I do to solve the problem? The problem might be you're short of money. The problem may be is you're needing to work on a relationship. The problem is you're trying to fix something. What is the solution to the problem? Males are very good at this. Not that females are not, but males are very good at this, solving problems. That's what we do. We like to build things. We like to solve problems. Focus on your attributes to try to solve problems. Now, I guarantee you that would create a lot of attraction, even from the opposite sex, from other people, because you're a doer. And if you focus on yourself and become the best person you can become, then you're going to be somebody who's always going to go ahead and be successful. You're never going to give up. And that's why I say, like Winston Churchill said, never, 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 never give up. Right? Continue going on. Use that power that you have inside of you now. And you know what power I'm talking about. You have a strength. It's unbelievable the strength that I have, that I feel. And I'm 64 years old. So you guys, I admire you guys in your 20s and 30s. I wish I could kept more of my energy back then. I'm overflowing now, and I'm 64. I can imagine what a lot of you younger guys are going through. But I'd say keep as much as you can. There's not, and I'm not saying, if there's a person you're with, like I said, my belief is you should only do it when you procreate. But I certainly understand people who have intimate person they want to be with and that sort of thing. But you have to think to yourself, what is the reason for releasing? Now, you can also still have intimacy, enjoy yourself without releasing. And we've done some videos on that as well. So the question becomes, what is the purpose of releasing? If you're not going to have a baby, you're not going to have a child, then what's the purpose? And that's the question you have to ask yourself when any kind of situation you get into, whether it's looking at pictures, whether it's people, that sort of thing. But are you going to be tested? Of course. In fact, you're going to have more, quote unquote, more bad luck, probably because you're on this path. Satan does not want you to be closer to God. This is what I'm surmising as time has gone on. Satan is trying to keep you away from God. He will put in any sort of temptation, anything out there to get you to that point. You have to be strong. You have to detach from things that are in this real world. And as you get stronger, as you get more retention, you want less and less of things. Material things are less important. I've seen this over the last 5 years now, 4 or 5 years I'm doing this. there is less of a need for things that are material. So you're not caught with things. Things don't own you. People don't own you. Because of that, now you have more. You're going to get more abundance because you don't care about abundance. You care more about the inner peace. You care more about doing God's will, God's purposes. So because of that, you're going to be attacked. You're going to be attacked. There's no doubt about it. Yes, we're going to get a lot of the benefits, clarity, attraction, all these things. You're going to get tons of benefits. You're going to get, health. All those things are going to be positive. But on the other side of it, you're going to get people not happy. The evil one's going to throw things at you because they know that you you're on the right course, and the evil one does not want you to be on the right course. So because of that, they're going to throw things at you all the time to make you stumble, to make you fall, and to be able to say, okay, this is not something that you should be doing. I'm going to move you away from this. I'm going to move you in a different direction. I'm going to tempt you with this. I'm going to tempt you with that. And hopefully you'll kind of go back into the way you were. So whether it's flooding the internet with pictures, people that are just appear on your picture screen all the time and you're releasing to them, or whether it's a person who comes in your life and all of a sudden they become addicted to you, and all of a sudden now you're releasing to them, or maybe it's a stressful situation, or maybe bad luck. And Don's talking about bad luck, good luck. Something happens to you, and all of a sudden all these things happening to you. That's going to happen. And in fact, it may even happen more in some cases because you're trying to retain. See, the body and the evil one, they do not want you to get into a habit that's a good habit. The more you're getting closer to God, the more temptation you're going to get. And so this is something to give some thought to. So when Don talks about can you have bad luck, you can have bad luck if you want to define it like that, because you're going to get tempted. Now, does that mean that you have to give into that bad luck, get upset, lose track of God, blame God, like some people do? Some people blame God. They get upset with God. They curse God, as the Bible talks about. All these things happen because they don't realize this is a test. Just like a woman who basically, she will test you. She cries. A lot of times the crying is not really, they're not that hurt. It may seem like it, but they're testing you as well and how well you react to that. Okay? And so a lot of times, and I'm not saying it's purposeful, it may be more subconscious. But a lot of these things are testing how you react to things. And you have to be careful on how you react to things. If a person's truly hurt, react to it the way you should, obviously. Be kind, be empathetic. But if they're all of a sudden floating with emotions and drama and all kinds of stuff, that's not really real. That's something that they're doing to test you to kind of, see how you would react to it. And we see this a lot in the dating situations as well, where women will just go ahead and break up with somebody to see how they react to it. They'll pull in and then pull back out, right? It's the tug of war, type of thing. They'll give you some attention, then they'll pull back. Those things happen all the time. Again, you can call that bad luck. You can call that things that happen, that things are not, all of a sudden everything's going great, and all of a sudden now the woman just checks out. And so they're trying to get you to chase them. And so again, that's not something that is going to be a positive thing. But again, this is something that's a growing experience for all of us, and it's happened to me many, many times. So the bottom line really is, Don, as you're talking about this, luck itself, I believe your luck is with your God, your creator, Jesus Christ in my case. That is who your rock is, right? That's who you're with. So as a result of that, anything that happens to you, I would not even call good or bad luck. But will things happen to you that are not good things? Sure. Because, again, you're trying to get closer to God. This is why we're only talking about 1%, guys. Warriors, we're talking about you're 1% of the population. 1% of the population. It's 1% of the population. Because Satan is trying to move everybody away from God. And until recently, where I see a shift now, once again, I talk about that commercial with the woman who is, is an attractive woman, and all of a sudden, some people are up in arms because it's not the way it should be. It reminds me going back to the old days where we had Farrah Fawcett, and those type of things, and those type of things show that we're moving back to the direction where women are women and men are men, and I think that's a good sign. But it's going to take time because you have a whole couple of generations of people who have been brainwashed of the wokeism type of idea that everything should be equal and nobody should be attractive and nobody should be this. We should all be attractive. That's just not the case, which is why you see a lot of women out there who are by themselves. And the MGTOW movement is getting a lot of criticism because men are just kind of walking away because people are not equal. You shouldn't just treat people equal because they're equal, right? This is not the way the world is. And so as you look at things, you have to kind of think to yourself, okay, how am I going to treat these situations? And so, Satan, the evil one's they're going to test you all the time. He's going to put things in front of you all the time. And that's somewhere you got to kind of stop and say to yourself, okay, is this a test? How do I react to this? And obviously you shouldn't react getting upset or angry. You should go ahead and kind of just let it bounce off of you and move on. And what I should have done that this afternoon, I didn't. And so I have to learn from that and continue moving on. But anyway, so that's a good question Don's asking about this. I hope I kind of answered a little bit, give you a little bit of my insight on this thing. Again, bad luck to me is not luck. It's all kinds of, those things happen to us, good or bad. Some things happen that we look at as being bad because they don't seem to be bad. But I've seen cases where in my life that something that looked bad, like a bad situation, turned out really well if I just let it and have some trust in it. Other situations that I thought were great didn't turn out so great because not everything you see is what it looks like. And the old idea is what glitters is not always gold, right? And that's the whole thing. Even though something looks great, there could be tons of problems in a relationship with that person. So you have to always kind of keep an eye on that. All right, guys. So anyway, hope you guys have a good night. We'll do another one. What's our next one? We have a topic on here. What happens to you if you don't do SR? We'll talk John Jennings. Maybe I'll do that one next time. All right. So anyway, guys, good to see you guys. Hope you guys are doing well. Hey, I appreciate everything. I'm going to, one of these days, and I think I'm going to start thinking about this now. Somebody had contacted me about doing a course in SR. And I think I may end up doing that. We'll talk more about this as time goes on. I'm kind of putting some ideas together. I'm going to see if I can do more than I'm doing right now to help some of you guys. And I don't necessarily want to write a book at this point about it because this is my experiences. But I do want to kind of maybe hold a class maybe on the actually trying to do the teachings of the Fountain of Youth. Maybe that's something we'll end up doing as time goes on. I'm going to give some more thought to it and see if we can organize it. We've gotten over 7,000 subscribers now, so we're getting closer to the goal of 10,000 to try to get that going, and then probably do some, I'm going to think about doing some kind of sponsorship or something we can kind of get you across to more people and help more people out as we go along. So I don't want to get to the point where once again I get tempted, to things and trying to do it for the right purposes. So anyway, hope you guys like this one. As usual, guys, I always leave you with two things. One, every day is a new day to a great warrior. Each one of you guys are great warriors. And number two, guys, we're always in a battle. We're always having to kind of keep our helmet on because we talked about any kind of things that happen to you, good or bad, good luck, bad luck, whatever you want to call it. Those things are tests. A lot of times in Army, the worst possible time that they're more vulnerable is after they win a war, because they've won, then they're going to let down a little bit. And that's when the opponents who may still be hanging around will go and attack. So even good things can happen, are temptations. All those things are temptations. Always stay the course. Keep your helmet on. Keep the breastplate on. Keep your sword on. And don't forget to battle on! Take care, guys. Have a great night.